I never thought the answer to my blood sugar troubles would be so ordinary. One morning, years back, I was sitting at my kitchen table, staring at that little glucose meter like it was my worst enemy. Numbers too high again. I tried pills, I tried strict diets, and Lord knows I prayed for something that would finally work. Then one day, I stumbled upon something simple. So simple I almost laughed it off. But when I gave it a chance, the change came faster than anything else I'd tried in years. My energy stopped crashing after lunch. My hands felt warmer. Even my afternoon mood. Well, let's just say my wife noticed I wasn't so grumpy anymore. Have you ever had one of those, "Why didn't I do this sooner?" moments? That was me. And I'm telling you, it didn't just make a little difference. It turned my whole routine around. Thank the Lord for small, powerful things hiding in plain sight. Most folks over 60 know the drill. Doctor visits, a list of don'ts longer than your arm, and that sinking feeling when your A1C climbs up again. But here's the thing. Your body still wants to work with you. It's never too late to give it the right tools. The problem is, the real fixes aren't always the ones you hear shouted on TV or printed in big letters on a cereal box. Sometimes there's simple habits, little tweaks, that open the door to better blood sugar faster than you'd think. Over the years, I've tested dozens of them, tossed out the ones that didn't deliver, and held tight to the few that changed my numbers and my life. Today, I'm going to walk you through 7 of them, counting down from number 7 to number 1, so you can see which made the biggest impact for me. You might just find your own game changer in here. If you enjoy learning ways to take charge of your health, share this with a friend who might need some hope today. Number 7, sleep and stress control. The first time I realized how much sleep was tied to my blood sugar, it wasn't from a book, it was from a bad night. I'd been tossing and turning, worrying about bills and whether the roof needed replacing. The next morning, my glucose meter nearly gave me a heart attack. I hadn't eaten a thing wrong, but the number was sky high. Later, I learned that just one night of poor sleep, 4 or 5 hours, can make your body act like it's insulin resistant the whole next day. That means your blood sugar stays up, even if you're behaving. When I started aiming for 7 to 8 hours, my numbers began to smooth out like calm water after a storm. It's almost like your body has a switch, and sleep is a hand that flips it to healing mode. Back when I worked long shifts at the plant, I thought stress was just part of being a man. What I didn't know was that my stress hormone, cortisol, was quietly convincing my liver to dump sugar into my blood all day long. No wonder I felt tired and edgy. Nowadays, I treat stress management like I treat brushing my teeth. Non-negotiable. 5 minutes of slow breathing before bed, a short prayer of thanks in the morning, and sometimes a quiet walk at sunset. My wife swears she can tell the difference on the days I take that time. She says my voice is softer and I don't snap as quick. Maybe that's the Holy Spirit calming me, or maybe it's just fewer sugar spikes making me a better man. Funny thing is, sleep and stress feed off each other like 2 neighbors gossiping over the fence. Lose sleep and you get stressed. Get stressed and you lose sleep. Breaking that loop was my goal. I found that magnesium glycinate before bed was like giving my body a gentle nudge toward rest. I'd sip a warm cup of herbal tea, take the magnesium, and read a chapter from the Bible or a light novel. Before I knew it, I was waking up without that heavy fog behind my eyes. And my morning fasting numbers? Let's just say they stopped scaring me. There's also something humbling about realizing you don't have to tough it out alone. For years, I thought slowing down was a sign of weakness. But it turns out resting well is one of the strongest things you can do for your health, especially past 60. A friend at church, who's been managing diabetes for over a decade, told me his best blood sugar readings come after the weekends. He actually takes a Sabbath rest. God made it a commandment for a reason, he laughed. And I think he's right. Our bodies are built to have a rhythm, not to be in fight mode all the time. Sometimes, I wonder how many of my bad days in the past were simply sleep debt catching up to me. Since I started protecting my rest like I protect my wallet, I've noticed my energy feels more steady. My cravings aren't as wild, and even my memory feels sharper. Sure, it's not as exciting as a new supplement or fancy machine, but I put it up there with the most powerful tools for blood sugar. The peace I feel now isn't just in my mind. It's in my numbers. Number 6, resistance training. The glucose vacuum upgrade. If muscles were a bank, resistance training would be the vault. I remember the first time a trainer at the community center told me, more muscle means more storage for your sugar. I thought he was just trying to get me to sign up for a program. But after a few months of light weights, just twice a week, my fasting glucose started looking like it belonged to someone 10 years younger. That's because muscles don't just sit there for show. They pull sugar from your blood even when you're at rest. Every squat, every row, every push-up was like installing a bigger, better vacuum for excess glucose. And the best part? You don't have to be a bodybuilder to get the benefits. Back in my younger days, lifting meant big egos and clanging iron in a noisy gym. These days, my gym is a pair of resistance bands hanging from the back of the pantry door and a couple of 5-pound dumbbells. 3 times a week, I run through a simple routine, squats, wall push-ups, and seated rows with the bands. It doesn't take more than 30 minutes, and I can do it while dinner's in the oven. My neighbor, Earl, swears by using soup cans when he travels, says it's proof you can train anywhere. The key is consistency, not fancy equipment. What I love most about resistance training is how it changes everyday life. Carrying groceries doesn't make my back ache like it used to. I can get up from the floor after playing with my grandkids without feeling like I've run a marathon. Even climbing the church steps feels easier. And that's important because stronger muscles don't just manage sugar better. They give you back pieces of independence that blood sugar swings tend to steal. It's not about looking younger. It's about moving like you still own the day. There's a quiet satisfaction in feeling your body respond. About 6 weeks into my routine, I noticed my morning numbers had dropped by nearly 15 points. No change in diet, no new pills, just steady, deliberate movements that told me my muscles were doing their job even when I wasn't working out. Like an overnight crew cleaning up a store. They were clearing glucose out of my blood while I slept. That's a kind of teamwork between body and mind that you can't buy in a bottle. Looking back, I wish I'd started resistance training sooner. For years, I thought walking was enough, and walking is great, but it's like cleaning only the front porch and ignoring the rest of the house. Now my house feels well kept inside and out. My doctor even commented that my A1C was boring this year, and I'll take boring numbers any day. Sometimes, the real upgrade you need isn't the medicine cabinet. It's in the way you move. Number 5, time-restricted eating/fasting mimicking diet. The smell of fresh biscuits used to wake me up before sunrise, back when my mama believed breakfast at 5 a.m. was non-negotiable. These days, I've learned that sometimes not eating right away can be just as powerful as the food itself. Time-restricted eating, like the 16:8 plan, simply means giving your body a longer break between your last bite at night and your first bite the next day. At first, I thought skipping breakfast would make me sluggish, but to my surprise, I felt lighter, more alert, and my blood sugar didn't spike as much after lunch. Turns out, those extra fasting hours give your insulin a rest and your body a chance to burn stored fuel instead of constantly asking for more. Funny thing, this isn't even new science. My granddad used to call it close in the kitchen early. He'd finish supper before the sun went down and not eat again until mid-morning. Back then, folks didn't know the words insulin sensitivity, but they knew how to listen to their bodies. When I tried it myself, I started by shutting down the kitchen at 7 p.m. and waiting until 11 a.m. to eat the next day. It wasn't easy the first week, but I kept a mug of herbal tea handy, and before long, my hunger calmed down like a tame horse. Then there's a fasting mimicking diet, which I like to call fasting with training wheels. Instead of going without food completely, you eat small, nutrient-packed portions for a few days that trick your body into thinking it's fasting. I tested this for 5 days and noticed not just lower blood sugar, but also a drop in that stubborn belly weight. My knees even felt less stiff. It's like your body goes into a gentle repair mode, tidying up the mess that years of sugar swings can leave behind. One thing I appreciate about this habit is that it's free. You don't have to buy fancy powders or miracle shakes. You just adjust when you eat, not necessarily what you eat. Though keeping meals wholesome makes it even better. On days when I know I'll be fasting longer, I make my meals count. Baked salmon, roasted vegetables, maybe a slice of avocado toast. I end up appreciating the taste more, almost like my senses wake up after a rest. These days, I see fasting not as deprivation, but as a gift I give my body. It's a pause button in a world that's always rushing. And every time I check my glucose after a fasting stretch and see a calmer number, I thank God for the patience to try it. I used to think change had to be complicated. Now I know sometimes it's as simple as closing the kitchen early and letting your body breathe. Number 4, post-meal walk, the 15-minute fix. The first time I tried to walk right after dinner, it wasn't because of study or a doctor's advice. It was because my grandson asked me to race him to the end of the driveway. We ended up walking down the block and back, laughing the whole way. The next morning, my blood sugar reading was better than usual. At first, I thought it was a fluke. Then I learned that moving your muscles right after eating helps them pull glucose out of your blood without needing much insulin. That's like getting 2 jobs done at once, digesting your meal and cleaning up your sugar levels. When I worked at the paper mill, walking after a meal wasn't even on my radar. Lunch was a quick sandwich, then straight back to work. Now, I make it part of my daily rhythm. After breakfast or dinner, I take a slow 15 to 20-minute walk around the neighborhood. Sometimes it's just me and my wife. Other days, it's with our dog, Daisy, sniffing every mailbox like it holds state secrets. The pace isn't about breaking a sweat. It's about gentle movement that keeps the blood flowing and the sugar from hanging around too long. There's a peacefulness in those post-meal strolls that I didn't expect. The air feels fresher, my mind unwinds, and I'm not tempted to flop in the recliner right away. And believe me, the recliner will still be there when I get back. My neighbor, Marge, swears this habit has helped her digestion. Too, says she doesn't get that heavy, sluggish feeling after dinner anymore. We joke that it's cheaper than buying digestive pills and works better than any TV ad promises. One thing I noticed is how much this habit stacks up over time. At first, the difference in my glucose numbers was small, maybe 5 points lower. But after a couple of weeks, the drops became more consistent. My A1C at the next checkup even showed a little improvement. That's when I realized this wasn't just a nice habit, it was a powerful one. All from a simple walk I could do without any special gear, just a pair of comfortable shoes. Now, I see those 15 minutes not as an obligation, but as a blessing. It's time to talk with my wife, notice the sunset, or even wave at neighbors I might not otherwise see. And every time I see a better number on my meter the next morning, I feel like I've won a small, quiet victory. God gives us simple tools, and sometimes they're right outside our front door. Number 3, smart supplementation, berberine plus magnesium glycinate. I used to be skeptical about supplements. Over the years, I'd seen too many miracle pills come and go, promising the moon and delivering nothing but a lighter wallet. Then I read about berberine, a bright yellow compound from certain plants, being called nature's metformin. That name caught my attention because metformin was something I'd heard about from plenty of folks managing diabetes. I decided to give a fair try, taking 600 milligrams in the morning and another 600 milligrams in the evening with meals. Within weeks, my fasting glucose readings were calmer, like a river after the rain has passed. It wasn't magic. It was just helping my body respond to insulin better and clearing sugar from my blood more efficiently. Magnesium glycinate came into my life almost by accident. My doctor mentioned that 14 to 48% of people with diabetes are low on magnesium and that it plays a big role in insulin signaling. That same week, I started taking 275 milligrams before bed. Not only did my numbers improve slightly, but I noticed I was sleeping deeper. I'd wake up feeling rested instead of dragging myself to the coffee pot like a half-asleep zombie. The glycinate form is easy on the stomach, so I didn't have to worry about the bathroom troubles some other magnesium types can bring. Sometimes I think of berberine and magnesium as the quiet helpers in my routine. They don't shout for attention. They just do their job in the background. I still eat sensibly. I still walk. I still lift light weights. But having these two on my team seems to give me a steadier baseline. It's like tuning an instrument. The song is the same, but the sound is clearer and more pleasant. Even my mood feels more even, probably because blood sugar swings aren't jerking me around as much. Of course, I'm careful with supplements. I always tell folks at church to check with their doctor before starting anything new, especially if they're already taking medication. Berberine, for example, can interact with certain prescriptions. But when used wisely, these little additions can be game changers. They're not a free pass to eat whatever you want. They're more like a supportive friend who helps you stay on track. Looking back, I wish I'd been more open to safe, evidence-backed supplements sooner. They're not the answer for everyone, but for me, berberine and magnesium glycinate have been steady allies. Every time I see a smoother blood sugar line in my readings, I say a quiet prayer of thanks for finding something that works. Not because it's trendy, but because it's proven itself in my own life. Number 2, apple cider vinegar before meals. The sharp, tangy smell of apple cider vinegar always takes me back to my grandmother's kitchen. She kept a big glass jug of it under the sink, swearing it could cure everything from hiccups to heartburn. I never imagined it might also help with blood sugar. Years later, I came across research showing that just 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar in a glass of water before a meal could lower the post-meal sugar spike by 20 to 34%. I figured it was worth a try. And sure enough, my meter started showing a gentler climb after meals instead of those steep roller coaster peaks. In the evenings, I make a little ritual out of it. A tall glass, 240 milliliters of water, 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar, and sometimes a drop of honey if I'm feeling fancy. I sip it slowly while dinner finishes cooking. It's not a flavor for everyone, but I've grown to like the kick. It wakes up the taste buds. My wife says it smells like salad in a glass, but she admits she's noticed I don't crash on the couch after supper like I used to. That acid, I learned, slows down how fast the stomach empties, giving my body more time to deal with the glucose from the food. I remember telling Earl, my fishing buddy, about it on a Saturday morning. He wrinkled his nose and said, "I'd rather eat the apple." Fair enough. But after I explained how it also helps muscles absorb more glucose, he gave it a shot. 2 weeks later, he was the one telling me to keep it up. It's funny how the simplest habits sometimes need a little nudge from someone we trust before we try them ourselves. Of course, apple cider vinegar isn't perfect. If you overdo it, it can be rough on your teeth and your throat. That's why I always dilute in water and use a straw. Saves the enamel. I also take breaks now and then instead of drinking it before every single meal, just to give my system a rest. And I never drink it straight. That's just asking for trouble. Now, every time I swirl that golden liquid into a glass, I think of it as a small, humble ally in my day. It doesn't cost much, it doesn't take long, but it sets me up for a steadier evening. And for something that's been in kitchens for generations, I'm amazed at how well it stands up to modern science. Sometimes, the old ways really do have something to teach us. Number 1, hit high-intensity interval training. If you told me 10 years ago I'd be doing high-intensity interval training in my 60s, I'd have laughed you out of the room. Back then, I thought intense workouts were for athletes and 20-somethings in fancy sports gear. But hit short bursts of effort followed by rest turned out to be something I could adapt to my own pace. For me, it's 30 seconds of climbing my porch steps fast, then 60 seconds of catching my breath, repeated a few times. Less than 10 minutes, and I'm done. The kicker? My blood sugar readings improve for a whole day afterward, sometimes even 2. The beauty of HIIT is that your muscles burn glucose without needing as much insulin, both during and after the workout. It's like giving your body a bonus cleanup crew. I learned that even short, intense sessions, like air squats in the living room or quick sprints on a stationary bike, can make a measurable difference. The science backs it up. Studies show it boosts insulin sensitivity for up to 48 hours. And here I was thinking I needed an hour at the gym to get results. I still remember the first time I tried it. I was nervous my heart wouldn't handle it. So I started extra gently. 10 squats, rest. March in place for 30 seconds, rest. Repeat 3 times. By the end, I was breathing heavier, but not exhausted. Over time, I added more sets and varied the movements. Sometimes wall push-ups, sometimes stair climbs. The key was listening to my body and keeping it safe but challenging. And sure enough, my post-meal spike started shrinking. The time savings alone make it worth it. When you got grandkids to visit, church potlucks to attend, and fishing trips to plan, you don't want to be chained to a treadmill. A few focused minutes here, and they're fit right into real life. I even sneak in a mini session while waiting for coffee to brew. 2 rounds of squats and arm raises. And I'm already ahead for the day. Now, I see HIIT not as a punishment, but as an investment. A small, powerful deposit into my health account that pays off in steadier energy, better mood, and numbers my doctor nods at. And every time I finish, I whisper a quick, "Thank you, Lord, for the strength to move," because that's something I don't take for granted anymore. Looking back at this countdown, it still amazes me how each habit, big or small, played a part in getting my blood sugar under better control. From a 15-minute stroll after supper to a splash of apple cider vinegar before a meal, every step added up. I used to think the only way forward was through more medication or stricter diets. Now I know it's about building a toolbox that works for your life, not against it. Some tools fit better than others, but when you find the ones that click, it's like your body finally says, "All right, I can work with this." What gives me hope is knowing these aren't tricks for the young and restless. They work for folks like us, past 60, who still want to enjoy life without constant worry over numbers on a screen. I'm not chasing perfection anymore. I'm chasing better days. Days when I can enjoy a church lunch without feeling wiped out. Days when I can play with my grandkids without thinking about my glucose meter. Days when I go to bed with energy still in the tank. That's the kind of change worth working for. Of course, I'm no doctor, and I always encourage anyone, especially if you're on medication, to check with your healthcare provider before making big changes to diet, supplements, or exercise. What worked for me might need adjusting for you, but don't let that stop you from exploring. Sometimes, the biggest breakthroughs come from simply trying something new, starting small, and giving it a fair chance. If I could leave you with one thought, it's this: you're not too old, too set in your ways, or too far gone to see improvement. The Lord's given us bodies that can respond, heal, and adapt, even in the later chapters of life. And every day we wake up is another chance to take a step in the right direction, whether it's toward the pantry for a glass of diluted vinegar, out the door for a post-meal walk, or to the living room for a quick set of squats. So take what you've learned here. Pick 1 or 2 habits to start with, and let them become part of your life. Build your own countdown of victories, 1 number at a time. And as you go, remember, you're not walking this road alone. Take care of yourselves, enjoy the blessings of each day, and God bless y'all.